Niner, good afternoon. Passing 1,000 feet, descending to 1,000.
Thai Asia 39 Phuket approach สวัสดีครับ Squawk 7300
Code 7300, Thai Asia 39. Thai Asia 39, Squawk 7300 are set.
Thai Asia 39 radar contact flight level 181 cleared the standby. Thai Asia 39 radar contact flight level 177 cleared the Savas 1 Delta arrival for runway 27. Descend by start to 3,000 feet, QNH 1006.
Phuket approach, actually Thai Asia 39 readability review is around 2. I don't know why.
One, two. Thai Asia 39 radio check.
Reach you 2 out of 5, Thai Asia 39.
Thai Asia 39 radio check. Thai Asia 39 radio check.
Thai Asia 39 still reach you 2 out of 5. Maybe I have problems with my internet, but I don't think so. And Thai Asia 39 clear to South 1 Delta arrival, descent via start to 3,000 feet and expect ILS will do approach runway 27, QNH 1006. Thai Asia 39, just to confirm, is this not possible to continue approach with airnav? Because I have some problems with ILS. Runway 09, please. I'm sorry for this.
Thai Asia 39 say again.
Thai Asia 39, I have big problems with ILS on runway 27. Can I continue approach runway 09 or via airnav Yankee?
Copy. Thai Asia 39 recleared Savas 1 Charlie arrival. Expect runway 09 at the INP's Yankee approach. To continue descent to 7,000 feet and QNH 1006.
Expect Savas 1 Charlie arrival, run off Yankee 09, continue descent 7,000 feet, QNH is 1006. Thai Asia 39, thank you so much.
Thai Asia 39er may descend and maintain 3,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 3,000 feet, Thai Asia 39er.
Thai Asia 39er after Milan, fly direct Lazam.
Thai Asia 39er, say again. I was from Milan direct to Lazam, Thai Asia 39er, thank you.
Just like it was yesterday. Every place that we found, run away still the skyline changes in every color. So young and restless, endless dreamers head up in the clouds. I never thought that
Thai Asia 39er disregard previous instruction, descend and maintain 4,000 feet, report over Kalim.
Take me back to those nights, late under the stars. So memories they never fade away. It was just you and I, silhouettes in the sunset fades.
Thai Asia 39er, confirm you're on the INP Zulu.
Restless, endless dreamers, head up in the clouds. Never thought that we would end up here together, but look at where we are. Wherever you go, wherever you stay, wherever you go, I'll be by your side. Wherever you go, wherever you stay, wherever you go. You caught my eye, and I just wanna hold you tight. You set my soul on fire, soul on fire. Never find another you.
Okay.
Thai Asia 39er radio check.
Small delay there. Just had to get a few things sorted out on our end.
Station 39er, read you
Just whilst
3 or 4 out of
it's
5,
been a minute since we've done
can
this,
say
so,
correctly.
we need a volume up, do we? I'm seeing some volume ups, so let's go for some. Let's go for some volume ups. How does that sound for you guys now?
Thai Asia 39er, how do you hear me? Thai Asia 39er, how do you hear me? Thai Asia 39er, how do you hear me?
Station 39er, now readability 5.
Copy.
Taser 3 we don't have this point, 450. We have only left Salmon point.
Taisha 39, you confirm you're established on the track.
Taser 3 yes, we are established.
Copy. Taisha 39 winds 290 degrees at 8 knots, runway 09, clear to land.
Runway 09, clear to land. Taser 3 thank you.
A wide host of people in our testing team. So quite early on, we reached out to numerous subject matter experts. This was pilots such as Pablo, railroad engineers, and aviation specialists such as Karen. And you'll see that in both the art, the modeling, and the systems. And it's been a really, a great joy to try and get all the quirky details in as much as possible. Before we get going, we've got some selection of images. If we can move to those, and maybe Cameron and Pablo, feel free to intervene where you see fit. It's a stunning model. You won't see many liveries today. We're in the Inibuilds house livery. But of course, in true Inibuilds fashion, how we started, there'll be numerous liveries available from a wide range of airlines on day one of release.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that as well, all these little unique details that are different between, say, the 900 and 1000, they'll all be captured in liveries. We're going to be looking at some of that stuff today. As we said, we're looking at the 900 today, but we're really going to go over how we've managed to capture the aircraft in all its glory, basically.
Yep, we can move through the pictures, Matt. The only final thing I'll say before passing over to our expert team is what you'll see today is what you can expect if you're a Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 customer on a PC. We'll be sharing information about what the experience will be for 2020 customers and Xbox customers, but I just want to make it super clear so there's no confusion about what will end up happening. We don't expect many variances, but there will be. So just wanted to make that clear before we jump in, that this is what you can expect as a 2024 customer on a PC. So I'll pass over to Cameron now. As always, as the chat says, if you've got a question in the meantime, we'll have sessions throughout the stream and pause for questions. So if you've got a question, please do post it. Our community team are there to pick them up. But I'll pass to Cameron now. Enough rambling. Let's get into the details, and Cameron can explain what the plan is for today.
Yeah, great. So you see, you join me in the 350 flight deck. Now, today we're going to be going over basically just a very, very short history of the 350. Then we're going to be doing a flight from Toulouse to JFK. Gonna go out on a whim and say we're probably not going to get all the way to JFK, but that's for the 350 flight deck. Now, today we're going to be going over basically just a very, very short history of the 350. Then we're going to be doing a flight from Toulouse to JFK. Gonna go out on a whim and say we're probably not going to get all the way to JFK, but that's for later on in the stream. And we're going to start on the ground, take a look at the aircraft, take a look at the details, take a look at the systems, and when we're en route, we're going to take a look at a bit more. So if you see me kind of saying we're going to come back to this later, that's because we obviously have a bit of a cruise segment where we're going to go over it, and we're also going to bring Pablo in, and he's going to interject whenever he wants to show something off that's cool, basically, about the 350. And there is a lot of cool things about the 350. As I said, very quick history. The 350 is truly a next generation aircraft. You've never seen something this advanced in flight sim before. The 350 takes everything that Airbus has learned over its entire history and packaged it in a way that everything makes sense. And I think, if it's fair to say this, Pablo, basically every pilot that flies it goes, "This is good. This is really good."
Yeah, totally agree. I also find the same. I actively fly 330 and 350. And when you get into 350, you feel exactly like that. That Airbus took all the input from all the years of experience on 320, 330, 340, and they kind of got everything sorted. It works fantastic. It's a very comfortable aircraft, and it's an amazing jet to fly. And I think that we've done a great job over here at Ini, and people are going to be able to experience all of these uniqueness that we have on the aircraft.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. Like I say, very, very quick overview of the history of the 350. It actually was built as a response to the 787. Initially, Airbus thought that they could just re-wing the 330, which is actually what became the 330 Neo. But customers said, no, we want something more extreme, and they went extreme. Interestingly, we'll take a look at this on the outside, but it's actually a mix of titanium and composite. It's not a full composite airliner. Most of it is composite, but for example, around the flight deck is not there, and they've kind of mixed the materials and went with a slightly more conservative view with the materials in the 787, but tested, known, and trusted, and then brought together all these aerodynamic sort of advantages of the modern style cockpit around the flight deck a little bit more. And I want to just try and point out some of these absolutely sort of, I'm not going to say it's just unbelievable details. Like, just take a look at
Asia 39 located on Foxtrot, but not ready to look up at exclusive clearance. One please.
rudder trim and all these little letters and everything like this. This is actually engraved. So this is not
Taisha 39 continue on Papa and Gate 3.
I can explain, but we've really perfected it now.
Continue on Papa and Gate 3, Asia 39. Thank you so much.
Like a 350 flight deck. As said, I went there when the full motion sim, so we were able to take all the references that we need to. And I mean, look, I'm right up to the rudder knob, and you can even see where there's hairs, paint, brush marks, everything. Yeah. Just to
Hey,
let you
Cameron.
know as well. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
So just to let everyone know, we're on Discord. We're streaming via Discord, so if there's a bit of lag, that's the reason why.
I'll go into that now. I was actually going to mention it now.
Yeah.
You say right. So
Yeah.
full on the table, right? I've got a 4090. I've got an i9 that's actually dying slowly, sadly. So it's not the best CPU in the world. I'm currently getting 137 frames per second. So it's definitely Discord. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
I was going to say the screen capture's
yeah,
cutting out the
it-
FPS in the bottom right there. So
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, this is with frame gen settings on ultra. So of course this is a high end PC, but I'm getting in line with really good frame rates with the level of detail that we've got here as well.
Yep. And just to give a bit more flavor on that, because I know performance has always been a concern that a lot of people have, that you're going into so much detail. What about performance? So there'll be numerous ways in which you can interact with this product, with the full detail, with reduced detail. We've got a lot of options, a lot of variants available to you depending on the system that you have. You've got it in 2024 and you've got it in 2020. So we've tried to really open up as many routes to enjoying this product as possible. And of course, depending on your system, how 2024 has a few bugs with the VRAM. You've just got to decide what you'd like, and in one purchase you have a 2024 and a 2020 variant, so you can see you can see it for yourself. But just to be super clear, we're on Discord, we're streaming via Discord. It's not going to be the experience you have directly. But
No,
anyway, sorry,
absolutely.
Cameron, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I can see people in chat as well saying that, like, to give you an idea of of course, like Uber said, there's many different variants and versions that you're going to be able to get to optimize for what you need as a system when it's in the forefront of our mind. But this is the same frames that I get on A330, if not more, for an aircraft that's much higher in terms of what we've been able to achieve. So this is definitely an extremely smooth experience, So I'll continue going through just some of these details before we power up the aircraft. So you can see here, like I say, these are the KCCUs, but I'm just going to get super close up to it, and you can see I want to talk a little bit about the way that we're able to get this level of detail without sacrificing totally for performance. When you hear people saying, is it 4K? Is it 8K? I'm going to blow your mind now and tell you that these textures are 1K. So this is a 1K texture, but we are using detail maps all across the flight deck to save performance and also give you a higher level of detail than you would even at, say, 16K, because I am literally right next to it. And you can see that it's just unbelievable. And that's everywhere on the flight deck. All these different materials, the leather, the sort of plasticky cover, the colors, everything is just there. So now let's get on to actually starting the aircraft up. So we're going to start the aircraft up, then we're going to go on the outside and come back to it later. Now, I'm going to ask Pablo before I mess this up. There's a certain way that you start a 350 up, and am I right in saying that it's VAT2, and then work your way left? I can't fully remember now.
First, you go to the top and you check the battery voltages at the far back. Are they?
Yeah. Let's do that.
They are. Yeah, that's good. All 4 of them.
Yeah.
Great. And now you go from left to right. Turn them on. So, battery 1.
Two. From left to right. See, I nearly made a mistake. That's why it's good to check. So battery 1, like this, and now we're going to connect the external 1 and 2. And you'll hear the FDX switch. I'll be quiet. Now, you might hear that sort of weird noise that sounds like a knob being twisted around. That's why I wanted people to hear that. From what I understand, please tell me if I'm wrong, is the avionics bay underneath us. There's basically a giant server. It's the switch. There's kind of all the relays opening, closing, everything going into the place that it's screwed. And that's what you hear when you turn the aircraft on. Am I right on that,
You
Pablo?
can hear all the contactors firing.
Asia 39 back in position. Thank you for control. Calibrate. Shooting. Goodbye.
Have a great evening to you too. Totally
The
come.
aircraft, it's always powered up in a turnaround situation, but every now and then there's a need to, and that's one of my favorite things. And this is so nicely captured. You hear the sounds, you hear all those bass claps in the background. It's just that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's something super satisfying. Like I said, we'll jump out in just a second, but I want to show this. So this is OIS not available. Now you can see that actually came online relatively quickly. Now we have options to basically make that real time. Now what it is, and this is what's very clever with the 350, is that it's basically a laptop in a box. So this is like a cradle that you can put laptops inside of, and it will feed straight here as the EFB. Now why it says OIS not available is the laptop is booting itself up. So in the morning when you turn the aircraft on the older systems, which is what we're doing here, the LPC-NG, it can take upwards of 7 minutes. So we've given you the option like you had here, where it's very quick, or you can have instant, so it's fine, not straight away. But it's one of those things where you're basically just waiting for an old Windows laptop to turn on. But we've simulated that, which is really cool, and that's why you don't see this straight away. So now I'm going to jump to the outside for you to start our walk around. So I'm going to quickly run towards the front of the aircraft where we would start the walk around from. So again, let's start and look at some of these details. Now, am I right in saying they've done something a little bit different on the 350, Pablo, where there's not really many text words anymore? It's a lot of symbols.
Yes, that is correct. Like if you, I don't know if you can get a bit closer over there from walk around mode.
Maybe I think I'll go to the there's one at the back for the baggage, but I'll just
It's a lot of drawing, say, and so instead of like actual text, there'll be a little drawing representing, for example, in the case of the static, what that static is feeding, which side of the instrument. Yes.
Yeah,
Or
and
for example, the card.
Yeah, I absolutely love these because it seems so funny, but when you look at it, you can work it out. You're like, okay, door, open, pull, then do that, then do this, then do that. Then it'll be open. Then
Okay, delivery. Sorry, Type of 17 at Gate 7 with information. Bravo, received receiving clearance to Singapore Changi, Airbus A350.
They're everywhere, you know.
Thai 4417 Phuket approach สวัสดีครับ You're cleared to Singapore via the Rebet 1 Bravo departure runway 27. Initially 5,000 feet, expect flight level 370, squawk 7302. Information Bravo, QNH 1006.
But it's a really good point. So we're actually operating both of our route today.
What code, second, please?
And you know,
7302 ครับ 7202
I think people need to consider. But the livery looks awesome. Is this our Inibuilds house?
This is the Inibuilds house livery, which I think if I just gonna walk way far away, really sort of fits the 350 because you've got that sort of the hashing at the back and the colors. It looks absolutely fantastic, you know. And I really love just sitting here on the apron looking at it because you've got the 900 there. I don't know. It just looks right. The black and the white. It just really looks absolutely spot on to me.
Clear to Singapore Changi via Rebel 1 Bravo runway 27. Initial card 5,000. Flight level 370. Squawk 7302. Type of 17.
Thai 4417, read back correct cup, report ready for push and
So
start.
start to see if you can kind of squint, but we'll look at it backwards. But I want to make this point. Just look at the tires. You know, unbelievable level of detail. We're going to have the same systems that you had on the A300, where you've got wear and tear. They'll go down over time. You'll have to replace them, and that's really kind of like a living, breathing aircraft. And can you see how they're not actually? I mean, they're tiny little bit bowed out at the bottom. We've got that tire deformation that we introduced with the A300 Premium, but they are more depressed on the main gear because there's much more weight on it, basically, which makes sense, right? So here we go, looking inside the bays here, inside here, everything is modeled. You know, you can open up this hatch, we can look through it with external power, everything like that, and it just looks fantastic. So look inside here, we can see the external power.
Thai 4417, read back correct, report ready for push and start.
Another thing we want to highlight as well is the differences between the 900 and the 1000. I'm right in saying this is only on the 900, Pablo, right? I think
Thai 4417, read back correct, report ready for push and start.
Yes, yeah, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so this is something just to show you sort of how we're capturing it. And I really like this shot because what it really highlights is, can you see how it's actually a sticker? So this is not text or decaled on. This is a physical sticker, which is what it is in real life, put onto the aircraft. And you can see that with ground door opening and this and that. This goes against the convention of what I just said. It's one of the only ones with actual text, but I think it's because it's maybe a little bit too difficult, but you can really, really see that capture in the light. And can you see how there's quite a lot of rivets? That's because this nose section of the 350 around here, it's probably, I don't know if my, like, you can see this sort of forward of the door, forward to the nose. That is actually not composite, it's titanium. So that's, well, alloy. So it's titanium stringers with alloy as well. So it's one of those things where it's a combo of the two. So let's continue around. Like I say, we could go around the whole aircraft here. We've got, is this the oxygen bottle, Pablo? Maybe if you could explain that.
That's right. That's a crew oxygen bottle. So now we got a bottle on each side. While the 330 before had the single one, that little disc as well, which was green at the front for the 330. Now here on the 350 have one on each side that also has to be checked. So yep, that's for your oxygen.
And I have to say, I think it's nice that they made it a bit bigger. Because on the 320 family, it's a bit small. So they've kind of made it a bit bigger, easier to see, which is...
And sorry, just one more thing over there next to it, that little disc, that's also battery discharge disc. And one of the options that we have with the package is that you can choose between the two different battery options that the 350 can come. One of them will have a discharge disc and the other one will not. And this will also change depending on which option you have chosen.
Absolutely. I think that's such a nice thing to have, is like having this sort of like dynamic inside outside. They actually have a reflection of what can, you know, what happens on the system side, what happens on the aircraft on the outside, which is, you know, absolutely fantastic. You know, I'm just trying to trigger the cowling open, but that's okay. We can just look through the quality of this engine. Now this is the Trent XWB family. So the original, if I remember rightly, Pablo, the original sort of tag word for the 350 was the extra wide body.
That's right.
Because it's a bit wider. Maybe you could say a little bit about that, why they called it that.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's massively wide, and actually in some configurations, not many airlines, but you can actually get 10 across. Majority go for 9, but yeah, it is extremely wide. And now, well, the part of the heritage of it has remained on the engine, and yeah, this one will be the XWB 84, and for the 1000 it will be the 97, and that number actually indicates the amount of thousands of pounds of thrust we have. So we're here with the XWB 84, 84,000 pounds of thrust. It is powerful.
And it's a huge, like, you've got to remember, this is head height. This is what you would see. This is what you see when you do a walk around, right, Pablo? It's absolutely enormous, you know. Yeah.
It's over 3 meters in diameter, so it is massive. You can stand on the actual lip and stretch your hands up, and you can barely start reaching the top. So it is huge.
Now here you can see how it's a very, you know, next generation engine. There's a lot of composites and woven fibers put inside of here, and let me just get super close, maybe not quite that close. You can actually read the numbers on the screw heads, which is pretty crazy, and the rivets. These cowlings, you can open them and you can actually walk up the ladder to decide to actually check the oil. So that is possible. It's something we'll probably take a look at a little bit later, or if we get a chance to on one of the other streams. But that's actually possible to walk around, open the cowlings, and look inside of it, which is absolutely incredible. This is maybe a little bit. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, David.
No, I mean, guys, you can see the level of detail on the exterior. I mean, it's just it puts together everything that we've ever made before, and just taken it to a whole other level.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. Like we've taken everything that we've learned over all the past times, and we've really just pushed it to the ultimate level. So I'm just going to continue this walk around. I want to quickly just talk around this dirt. So this is something that's actually going to dynamically change with the aircraft. So we can actually have a clean aircraft. Because I don't know about you, Obaid, right? But I would sometimes want a clean aircraft or a dirty aircraft. But it's always sometimes like, no, I want that livery, but I want it dirty. I want that livery because it's clean. And we've kind of given people that option.
No, exactly. Like this is really, really important for me. Like I'm a flight sim at the end of the day. When I get on these planes, I want to do some nice dirty, like Singapore cafe ops. Heavy storms, lots of rain. I want a dirty livery. So, in the EFP you'll have a slider. And you can basically determine what level of dirt you want, and that will dynamically change. So it will work in two ways. Maybe the one way it will work is how many cycles that you fly, and of course the dirt will build up slowly. But if you want to jump straight in and have a dirty livery or a less dirty livery, you'll have a slider in there between 4 different states, and that's what we call in the dynamic weathering.
Yeah, absolutely, and I really like that. It gives everyone the options that you can. The APU cowling can open to look at the APU. Like I say, everything that we've taken from the other aircraft we've really introduced into here as well. Final thing I want to look at on the gear here. Now you can see the gear pins. Am I right in saying, Pablo, these are the brake wear indicators on the left and the right?
Correct. Yep, the little pins, the very thin little cylinder ones that you can see left and right. Yep.
Yeah, that's it, right. And then we've checked those right for within the limits. So it's, am I right in saying that the pin would not have to be past where that little point is at the end?
Yes, that's right. And actually, you need very little of it. The check that we do is critical thickness.
Oh, critical thickness. Okay.
More than that, you're all good to go.
You're all good to go. Nice, nice. And you can see here as well that we've actually got the brake fans installed on this aircraft. So brake fans are installed. That is going to be an option to toggle them on or off. And actually, the brake fans are kind of interesting as they make a completely different noise. They make kind of like a whoosh noise. Is that maybe fair to say? I don't actually know if your operator has them, Pablo, so you might not
we actually do not have them. So
you do not have them. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Like.
Yeah, so they don't make this high pitch screeching noise. They make like a, I don't know. It just sounds like more of like you're in like a tunnel with a fan. It's not actually that bad anymore. They're actually much quieter than the 320s, which is kind of hilarious when you consider they're much bigger. Of course, on the 1000, there's triple bogies. We've got 2 bogies here for the 900. And we're going to finish the walk around now. So we come back here, walk around to the front, and then we'll go back inside the aircraft. Now, I want to say as well, underneath the aircraft, it is possible to open a lot of these hatches. Now, it's something we'll try and toggle from the inside or have a look at, but it's unprecedented. You can open all the fuel doors, you can open all the hydraulic bays, we can open up the toilet reservoir at the back for refilling. It's really quite crazy the level of detail that's in there.
Yeah, and I just want to. While camera does that, obviously, I'm looking at some of the lists that we've got here. You've got your usual cabin entry doors, but you've got, fuel panel access hatch, avionics bay access doors, portable water service hatches, and with the 2024 system, you'll be able to interact that from the exterior. And of course, if you're in 2020, you'll be able to open these from the EFB. And I think we've covered all of the possible options that are available. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like you can see in here, like the aircraft is kind of like alive, if you know what I mean. Like it's there, and you can kind of look inside. These will function with the sort of amount of hydraulic fluid that you've got, so you can actually check them on the walk around if you want. You can see here I toggled it sort of incorrectly because I should have done it beforehand, but this is the high pressure ground air, and then you can toggle it away if I just get a bit closer to it. Like this.
And for those, again, who don't really care about this stuff and they want a 350 and they don't have the best performance, there'll be an option with all of these things disabled. So you won't have to have all of these things if you don't want to, and that will be a separate installation. Yeah. And I think that's what's really important. This plane will be available on the marketplace. This plane will be available to purchase on the Inibuilds store as well. But the most customizable options will be on the Inibuilds store. And that's just something to bear in mind, because we'll be able to allow you to switch things off, install different versions without these things for better performance.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because that means it gives us more flexibility. I'm just going to start the aircraft up. It's sort of standard Airbus flow. Working your way from this side, turning it on, turn the ground controller on. ADRS seem very similar. As you'd work your way at the top, test fire push button you would do here, and it would do, if I'm right in saying, Pablo, it does all of them. Is that right?
All of them. Now you have a single button that
Yeah.
does everything compared to 330, 320, where you had engines and APUs split. So here's just one flow.
Yeah, which to be honest makes more sense rather than doing it, letting go, doing it, letting go, doing it again. You know, so it's a better idea. As we talked about before, we've got the maintenance panel a little bit up here. There's you know, a lot of this stuff here. Like you can look at the batteries, the APU, econ mode, a few other things up here as well. Moving down, lots of this prims and secs. That's not a change from the 330 as such, but it's a change from the 320. So they've got rid of the facts and things like that. They've sort of centralized how the aircraft works. Now, talking about prim, secs, and facts and flight control computers, this is something that's really quite unique. We can go and have a look at them. So let's go and have a look at them. So we can open up the hatch here, and we can move our way down into the avionics bay. Now, the avionics bay, have you ever actually been inside of it, Pablo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I've been
okay.
there 4 times. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
It really is like this. It's small. You have a duck.
Yeah.
Even though it looks quite big, it is quite tiny. You have all the computers and it's whirling and fans, and yeah, it is a great place to go. and
It's
have a
like
look.
being in a server room, right? I think
Yeah,
to me this really
exactly.
gives an indication of what the 350 is. It's basically a giant flying server with
Yes.
everything attached to it, which is, you know, makes complete sense, you know. So just to point out some of the things we mentioned before, that blowout disc, depending on the battery, kind of goes here, if I'm right in saying that, because it's kind of how it would vent outside. And
Yep.
these are the main batteries, because there's 4, battery 1, battery 2, and you saw the emergency battery 1 and 2. I don't actually know if it's 2 on one side, 2 on the other. Probably 1 on one side, 1 on the other. And you can actually even read some of these instrumentation in here as well.
Thai 4417, ready for pushback and start up for home.
It's basically a huge server room downstairs. That's one thing that they changed also in the philosophy. Instead of having so many, flight concentrators everywhere for all the data, instruments, and analog instruments. Here,
Thai
you use
4417,
a
push
lot of
and start
systems
is
that can
approved, face north,
control everything.
QNH
So it's very modular,
1006.
very easy if there's an issue to just replace the computer, and then the computer can run while the other computer was running. So it's very easy to redispatch.
Yeah, no, exactly.
In other add-ons, it's unnecessary performance loss. You can switch this off if you want.
QNH 1006, pushback facing north, Thai 4417.
Exactly. It's something that if you want it, it's there. If you find it cool, use it. If you don't have to use it. It's really there as a sort of giving people the choice. So the IRSs are in a line. They're in the attitude phase now. That's where we've got the globe up here. And now I want to talk a little bit about the screens, the KCCU, and sort of the overall philosophy of the 350. And this is where I'm going to lean on you a little bit, Pablo, because it's an interesting setup because it's a totally different philosophy, but it's also the same. I know that sounds really dumb, but it's true. Is it's a totally different way of interacting with an FMS, and it's totally different way of the menus laid out. But if you are used to a 320, you probably can still figure it out. You're probably at the point where you're like, okay, I see you have an init page, and you have a this page, and you have a that page, and blah blah blah. Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly just talk about the fact that how the cursors work, and we've got the trackball. So what we're simulating here, let me just move a little bit closer. This is the cursor, the pointer like this, for the captain side. Now the round one is the one for the first officer side, and that would be used by the trackballs. Am I right in saying that, I think, Pablo?
That's correct.
Yeah. So now we've simulated that you're obviously flying this single pilot. So when you move your cursor across this little boundary, it kind of acts as like a stop in the real aircraft, and you can move this across, but then it swaps to the other one. So that's how you're swapping between the different cursors that you're using, so you kind of ping pong it like that. So this is FMS1 and this is FMS2, so that's kind of interesting. Now I want to talk about moving these cursors around the aircraft. Now, how the real aircraft works, and it's actually pretty cool, is let's say you want to move your cursor to the ND. It doesn't just move. You actually have to tell it where you want the cursor to move. Same if you want to go to the mailbox. Same if you want to go across to the EFB. And you do that with these buttons here. So this moves the cursor to the ND. This moves it to the mailbox. If I press mailbox, so now it's in the mailbox up here. And I don't know if you can see how there's that kind of like nice little animation. So if I press MFD, it goes like that and like that. That's all from the real aircraft. And it's a system that can take a little bit of getting used to, but once you're used to it, it's actually nice, if you'd agree with that, Pablo.
And no, but please, Pablo, go ahead. And I just had a point from a simming perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it takes a little while initially to get used to it, especially to the conventional MCDU, in which you have line select and so on to interact. But this has got so much more versatility, and you got menus and sub menus and many different ways of accessing the same thing. And the other thing as well is the ND is interactive, so you can also do certain functions directly on the ND. You can in the ND select a waypoint, and then while you're on the ND, click direct to here. So it just adds so much more flexibility. But once you get used to it, you realize that it's all the same embedded functions that the 320, the 330 will have. It's just finding them that initially it might take a little longer, but people will get used to it really quickly.
Yeah. And just from my perspective, I've been flying this plane. I'm a clumsy pilot. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I've lost my cursor. Well, no, I just have to press ND or MFD
escape.
again, or
ND,
escape. I'm like, no, this is a bug. This is issue. And I call Dennis, and it's like, oh, you silly pilot, you haven't pressed the right button yet. So that's really, that's a good big gotcha in this plane from other sims, planes that we're used to in the sim. If you've moved your cursor onto another screen, you just got to remember to move it back. Because you'll forget.
So now I can move it over here. Yeah, no, I can, now it's aligned. You can see, like, look, but this is what I often do is I move it to the ND, and I'm like, okay, let me. Oh wait, MFD.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just takes a second to get used to it. But
and especially on a plane like this, when you have to do the BTV and stuff from the ND, you're like, oh well, I'm there, and then I have to actually change it back. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't know. I'm not a cool enough pilot like you guys, but I always forget. and I pretend I lost my cursor.
No, I often when I activate the airport nav function, I go on it and I go like, and I see it because it looks so cool. I'm like, I want to go there. And then I'm like, my cursor go there, and it's because I have to swap it. So I heard someone just in the chat mention about like, it's cool that can we move this onto the? So yeah, you can reconfigure it like the real aircraft. So you can move the FMS onto here, move that onto here. And the one thing I wanted to say about this is, why have they changed this? Because this is fairly different from the 380 in terms of its screen layout. Now the reason they've done it is redundancy. Each of these display units, which are called multi-function displays, are exactly the same. So there's no difference. So you can put this on that or that on this, and if the screen fails, then you can have your FMS still. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
redundancy.
Matt, you were flying. I think it was you, right? Your layout of the plane was really weird. Like, what did you put on the left hand side?
Yeah, so I do it a little bit different. I have, well, I don't know if it's different, but everyone who's been testing has the en route map on the where the OIS is now on the left hand side. I tend to chuck the the flight plan and the performance data up on the left hand screen, and then have the en route map in that center display just in front of the thrust levers. Something a little bit different, just personal preference, I guess.
Yeah, and this is the thing, that this plane and the vision of this plane and the perspective of this is everything is about versatility. So it might not be super realistic, but you can put this screen on something that works for you, that is isn't operating the day to day. And it's all about choice.
No, exactly. It's the aircraft is about configuration. Like I think you mentioned, and when I was in the sim, I noticed myself doing it. When you're briefing with charts, I tended to go, okay, we're going to do the brief, and move the charts to the middle, and then when the brief was finished, moved it back. But if you're in the cruise and you want to brief, put it in the middle. Whatever, the system's there, So speaking of screens, this is where I just want to, and like I say, we're going to glance over the EFB, okay? Because otherwise I can talk forever. I'd be here for days if we went through every system on the ground. But what I want to show is sort of a glimpse into the customization of these airframes. So you might notice that these multifunction displays have a bezel around the edge. Now, these are because they are the touchscreen units. Now, in the real aircraft, the only thing that you can touch is the EFB. Am I right in saying that, Pablo, with the touchscreen, in terms of interaction?
Yes, we do not have it, so I have not tried it.
Okay.
But we've got the new display as well, just a non-touchscreen version.
Non-touchscreen,
looks
yeah. So that's a good point, actually, that it is both, but normally it coincided, right, roughly when it became an option for touchscreen.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's what I will say this: the sim that we went in had a touchscreen. I was a little bit disappointed because I was like, "Ooh, touchscreen," and I went to touch the FMS. And he was like, "No, it's only the EFB," and I was like, "Oh." So it is only the EFB, which makes sense in fairness, because it's better to use the trackball for the KCCU. So anyway, getting off track slightly. So like I say, we're going to go through this later, but I'm just going through it now to get to sort of the equipment now, and I'm trying to remember exactly where it is. I should know. Here it is. Display type. So we can toggle between them. So this is the old type of display. Old, still not that old, but you can see the bezel's gone. I actually think it doesn't look that good. I prefer the new ones. So I basically always fly with the new style display. But as Ube was just saying, you can customize display in the way that you want it to, but we'll come to that later. So let's start with programming the KCCU, and again, this comes on to what we were saying about the cursors. So with the cursor, do you see how I pressed in it and the cursor jumped to the top? Now, the reason it jumped to the top is we have the auto jumping cursor for quite a lot of pages. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to not use that. I'm going to insert my company flight plan. So I've already made a flight plan ready for this on SimBrief. It's now just downloading. It's all integrated, and actually this is what happens on the aircraft. Once it's received, you click insert, and note to everyone using this: if your engines are running, you can't insert a flight plan. So if you load on the runway and you want to insert it, you can't. Real planes like that. If you've got a problem with it, write a letter to the people over here in Toulouse. That's just how the plane works.
I think it'd be a good point. Like, I'm sure maybe Cameron has covered this, but I know we've got this question happening a lot. So, what sort of like third-party integrations that are really important for people have been integrated? So, I think, I'll cover them, in lighter detail, but please feel free to deepen, Cameron. So, obviously, we've got GSX compatibility and integration. We've got the Navigraph subscription for that is required for the BTV and the NA, but we've also got Navigraph nav data, which I think Cameron, you can cover in more depth. And what was the other one that people were asking for? GSX, Navigraph, any others I missed?
I think that's the main ones, to be honest.
And obviously, SimBrief.
Oh yeah, SimBrief. Yeah, and they're all like tightly integrated. Like and Hoppies. I saw someone chat.
And Hoppies. There you go.
there's too many.
Everything. Think of all of them we've done.
There's too many. I forgot about them.
Lidos.
And Lido. And I just saw someone say Lido. Yes, and Lido. It's like, so I wanted to keep this for the cruise, but I will. Why don't we go over it now? Because we're talking about it because it's fun and cool. So in the options, we've got a lot of options of the simulation stuff. Now, third party. There's even a tab for it. There's that many. Oh, I've just linked my Hoppy log on. Never mind. I'll get a new one at some point. But you've got the SimBrief ID, the Hoppy log on, and now this is a huge one. Now we will talk about this now because this is something super important. Is Sim default and Navigraph. So all of our aircraft up to this point have used Sim default data. Now, please listen. Like, I'll try and keep this as light as possible, but I also want to get a little bit technical to kind of give people an understanding of what was going on. Is the aircraft that we had in the past were drawing data from the sim. So our aircraft FMS, for example, goes, I'm in Toulouse and I want nav data, and it goes,
Hi, 417, ready for taxi.
The simulator goes, here's the nav data, and gives it you back. Great. Now,
Thai 4417 taxi Tango to Papa holding point hotel runway 27.
Auto tune, or you're, for example, I can't remember the scenery exactly, but there was a few sceneries where it just drew completely wacky stuff, where it was like
Taxi to Tango 2, Papa, holding point hotel, and runway 27.
So the aircraft, our aircraft, to the sim, hey, can I have the nav data? And the sim is going, well, the airport says it's this, and it just gives weird backs, and it doesn't auto tune or it doesn't do this. So what we decided to do is we've integrated with Navigraph. So now what our aircraft does is, and I believe, I don't want to say that this is the first one. I think it's the first aircraft to use this new Navigraph API.
I think the PMDG might have it in one of those.
I think the PNDG though does it slightly different, where they read it straight from a custom file. Ours doesn't read it; it reads this custom data, but via their
Oh, fine. Yeah, fair enough.
Right. I think this is what I
Yeah.
want to say. It's sort of similar. So what it does is the aircraft now goes from the FMS to the Navigraph plugin. There's a specific plugin for that. Then that goes to the custom nav data and then gives it us back. Now that gives us unparalleled flexibility because we can swap between sim default and Navigraph. So you can just load in and say, no, I want to use sim default. Boom. No, I want to use Navigraph. Boom. And that's it. You just click the button. It'll blank your FMS, of course, because you swap nav data, and you can update the nav data. I saw someone saying the Fly-by-Wire 380. That's not the same because it's going via the JavaScript API. We're using the VATSIM API, which is something different. So that's a different thing entirely because it's going from here to a Navigraph plugin to the data and back. That's why I know that was a bit of a convoluted explanation, but I want to make clear that this is pretty impressive and pretty cool. You update your nav data here, so if there's new air rack that comes out from Navigraph, you just click update, boom, it downloads. That's it. You don't need to ever do anything. That's it. That's how it works. It's fantastic, to be honest. We will go over more of that afterwards with charts and stuff. I am going to now keep going back to here because I want to show this auto cursor jumping and how I am an advocate of not using the keyboard, and I'll explain why. So you can, if you're over a box, hold tab and then you can type with the keyboard if you want to. But genuinely, the quicker way, and it's the way that's done in the real aircraft, you don't see them with the tray table out, because in the real aircraft, right, Pablo, you have a keyboard, You have a keyboard here. Yeah.
The
But
keyboard does not feed onto the MFD on the right. The keyboard is on the left.
Yeah.
I personally don't use a keyboard. I actually just use the KCCU even with the OIS on the left. Some people prefer it. It's sometimes I actually use it, but yeah, it's very versatile.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you want to, you can like I say, you can hold tab and then type in the keyboard if you want to. That's fine. But there are a few things that make it a little bit difficult because your camera is locked in that view. So if you move away and come back, you kind of get a bit stuck. So let's just put the fuel and load in. So now with the fuel and load,
just jump in and you go back, press return, bottom left. So yeah, I'll go back to init. Yeah. So also one thing that's really good over here for one starting up, this page has got everything actually in the order that you need to follow it. So you will start from the top and just fill everything in either manually or nowadays, of course, we get the app links. And then you just click every single button afterwards. IRS, you check your IRSs, departure, you set up your departure runway, back to navigate, fuel and load, take off perf. Everything is in the order. So all of those buttons for everyone that's going to be new joining us on this wonderful aircraft, that's what you need to follow.
Yeah, I personally think it's the easiest way. I'm going to do that on the fuel and load page now, showing, actually, would be helpful if I put the fuel and load in first, though, wouldn't it? Let's do that. Let's do that first. So load sheet, again, full integration. So remember my flight plan's already made. I just go sim brief import. That's my thing. Set zero fuel weight, set fuel, done. That's it. There's my zero fuel weight CFG. There's my gross weight CFG. You see the aircraft sort of go up and down a little bit. That's because it's measuring the actual center of gravity. Here are all the passengers, job done. So now, if I want to put this in, you can, of course, type it in manually, but here's a little trick that we've put in there that I really like. So if I click, and I just click enter, it actually just pulls the weight straight from the sim. So you can see how it's jumping, and then I can say we've got 255 passengers on board, jumps to return, jumps back to there. So you see how it's just enter. It is an easier way to do that, and it's really cool. In the background, you might hear the actual PA starting to play, and I will show this now. So let's go to the options. We've got I have to even remember myself now. It's in sounds, right? Yeah. So we have all these different language packs. So we can change it to French today because we're in France. So the rest of them, there you go.
And there's a point. There will be a flag for Arabic. We were just thinking, what country would be best? But I think given our hate for Qatar in the previews, stay tuned for tomorrow for Qatar previews. We'll put the Qatar flag for the Arabic.
Okay, that's good. Now you see the memos down here, right? I don't know if you found this on the 330, Pablo. I found that the old system of this sort of notifications in the scratch pad wasn't great because it was very easy to miss something.
Yes.
When you clear
especially because on the 330 you would start typing and that would block the message. So now this works completely different. You do not type anything and then insert it with a line select. You go straight to the field.
And exactly, and you've got a little clear info button. So the clear info button, you don't have to actually click the clear on the page. And then when you click message list, it's showing you We had GPS primary, we had AOC route uplink, IRS is line, and nav accuracy upgrade. That makes sense. So I like it because I've done it in the past on the 320 as well, where I've cleared something. I'm like, wait, what was that? That was amber. Oh, it's gone. I don't know. And there's no way to know what it was. So yeah, that's how sort of that works. So let's put the SID in. Now, similar thing, actually, let me also bring the flight plan up. So you can just view the flight plan here. So it's nice and easy. Let me look. Scrolling down a little bit. 32 left, LACO 7 Bravo. So we're putting the departure in. So we click departure. Now you can click on the drop downs if you want, but I'm going to do it this way. So my brain just remembers 32 left. Yeah. SID was the LACO 7 Bravo. Temporary insert. To me, that's quicker. I mean, you know. And I'll do it a different way now. So you can see you can just click on the arrivals on the drop downs if you really want to, and then insert temporary, insert, done. Now, what else have we got to do? Performance, right? I believe. So let's look at performance.
Yeah, we don't end up on the end of the runway.
We don't want to end of the runway. End of the runway is bad. Now,
Off the runway.
this is a simulation of what you would see in the real aircraft. Actually, I think it looks really cool. But we've added a few little things in, of course, to make it a little bit more simple. You've got your SimBrief sync, but you've got sync FMGS. Now, sync FMGS will pull.
Hi 4417, winds 290, degrees 7 knots, runway 27, cleared for takeoff.
LFBO, Tourer is this, and then we can sync the weight.
3417, clear to takeoff.
Celsius 1013. Dry, we can have dry and wet.
Runway 27.
Configurations, flex takeoff, and we can click compute. Now this gives you quite a lot of data. So it's given our V speeds, our thrust reduction, which can be adjusted by default value in the FMS, and our MTOW perf. Do you mind explaining that one a little bit, Pablo, with what MTOW perf means?
Yes, so over there, that's giving you the maximum takeoff weight that you can actually take given these conditions and the runway length that you have. So that is whether especially what happens in real life when we have very heavy weights and conditions that are not the best, as in wet runways, very high temperatures, tailwind, then suddenly your MTOW perf starts dropping, and then it's when okay, how much more payload can you actually take, because sometimes that number gets quite close to what you already have planned.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I want to answer just a question from chat as well. I saw how many flap settings does it have. Now there's a system, is it ETOC, Pablo, I think it's called, the enhanced takeoff configurations. Yeah, I think it is ETOC. Is a new option. It's relatively new. We're talking last few years, and that basically gives you like a 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Now that's obviously a new option, and it's also not being used too much at the moment. So no, we just have 1 plus F, 2 and 3, and that still gives you a huge amount of ability to take off. So yeah, ETOC is what people are thinking about there, but no, we don't have that because it's very new. Of course,
very
in
new.
the future,
We don't even have it,
very,
and
very
we are
no.
a huge operator of the 350s, and
Yeah,
we haven't even heard the word of when it will happen, and we're gonna get it.
So exactly. So when it becomes a bit more mainstream, maybe, but at the moment, no. Now what you can do off of this is sense the FMGS. There's not much else to talk about on there, I think, really, because it looks pretty standard. We can go on the perf page, and I can just confirm the speeds. Now that puts in our V speeds, our flap setting, the thrust reduction, the flex is in there, and derated and everything like that. Now, I'm not going to do this, but I want to talk about this system because it's really, really cool. The noise. So noise here. Now, what noise allows you to do is, again, excuse me for getting a little bit technical for a moment. When you need to do an NADP style departure, there's NADP 1 and NADP 2. One of them is basically you just climb up like you would normally, and you accelerate and you reduce the thrust at the same point, and off you go. The other one, you have to climb all the way up to 3,000 feet above the aerodrome level at your basically V2 plus 10, and then you accelerate. Bit of a pain, can be a bit annoying. Would rather not do that basically, and the people from Airbus have figured that out. So what you can do is you can actually tell it an N1, tell it a speed, and then you reduce the thrust down, but it keeps doing the sort of shallow departure and then slowly adds the thrust at the end. It's a very cool system, and it's modeled, and it does work. What else is there? We're talking about, we're going to go through all this stuff. auto derate, I do want to talk about that before we take off. It's a different system, right, Pablo, than the 330. Do you mind explaining that one?
Yes, the 330 had the different steps that were fixed as D1, D2, or no derate at all. Over here, you just have two options. If you click on thrust over there, it will be just auto derate or just full climb power. And then what it does is full climb thrust would be assumed, let's say, if you have your maximum takeoff weight. And then that, let's say, that would be your worst performance, let's say, your heaviest takeoff, and you'll be climbing at the shallowest. And then what it does is it works out, if you're lighter than that weight, of course you'll climb a lot better, and it will match the performance to what it would be if you were at full up weight. So auto derate effectively gives you less thrust to perform like if you were heavier, which of course means extending the engine life and prolonging it.
No, exactly. And I actually really like it as a system, because I remember with the 330 I had to get used to when do I use D1, when do I use D2, when do I cancel it. Auto derate, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. It just does its thing. If you want to get rid of it, you can get rid of it, but basically just leave it alone. Everything else we're going to look at later on. We can see we can go all the way up to flight level 380, which is what we're going up to. Optimus 378. Actually, you can see the engine out there. It's kind of a different thing on there. 350.
Thai 4417, radar contact 1,400 feet, continue climb to flight level 110, correction, 1,000 feet, direct rebed.
Click on flight plan. You can jump per page. That's kind of like a Boeing, isn't it?
Thai 4417, come to 11,000, direct rebed.
Well, yeah, you jump the whole page. This makes it very easy.
Thai 4417, confirm 11,000 feet, 11,000 feet.
You just go page.
Thai 4417, confirm time to flight level 1,000 feet.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really nice to have that option of the page, because sometimes you just want to, like, I want to get there, click, you know, or I want to do one page, next page, and yeah, you can put your scroll. I'm now using my scroll wheel while going over the scroll wheel, and I'm you know, going through the route here. And you can also use the, I'm right in saying this, you can use the up down key here. So there's, you know, multiple ways to do it, but depends how you want to do it. Right, so we've got the departure, we've got the arrival in, we've got that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start GSX to get ready. So I'm going to show this off, but use it from the menu bar, because it's something we're still working on at the moment. Almost just disconnected the GPU without starting the APU. That would have been back to what I almost did once before. It's like, that was close. So I'm just going to put all these lights to auto, armed. Does that look right, Pablo? I think right. So auto, beacon off, nav.
Seatbelts on.
Seatbelt signs on. That's correct. Thank you.
Another thing that is different on the 350 over here, if you just move up a bit compared to 330 and 320, is the on the air conditioning side, that cabin one. That everyone might look at it and see, the cabin temperature is at the bottom. It's really cold. That actually is the way it works. On 350, you put it in Purser Select, and the cabin crew have got access to changing and selecting the temperature as they wish. So you don't have to set it at 10 o'clock, like for example we do for the cockpit. That would have locked that temperature with some variations. We just leave it at Purser Select, and then they can change it as they wish. So it's a nice thing in real life.
It's nice.
You don't get
It makes
cold
sense.
so often. Make it warmer, make it colder.
They should have, they should have control of it. You know, it's logical. You know, I'm gonna be old school and leave it in the middle.
you know all those rich Arab clients in 1A need a cold cabin.
Cold. They want that. Oh, they want. Okay. Yeah.
Most of us
need their personal air vents as well.
Well, exactly, personal air vents. A question that came up, and I know the question, Cameron, please correct me if I'm wrong. People are asking about intersection departures on the EFB, and I think we investigated this a lot, but I think it was a data issue, right? And the end that we. So do you want to maybe talk about that? So because I think people, might think we've overlooked it, but we have thought about it.
No, we thought about it. I'll show you. It's a very good question.
Thai 4417, radar service terminated, monitor Unicom 122.8, flight to Singapore, Saudi Club.
You want to take off from, I don't know.
Contact Unicom 122.8, Saudi Club,
and then I could go on here, and I'm using, and I will go to my death, the superior charts, which is the leader charts. I will say this, for the AGC and for the APC, for the SIDS and stars, they're not very good, but that's fine. I love the leader charts. So here you could say, we want to take, because we're going full length 32 left, right? Here we're going Sierra 4 2525. You can then just type in 2525. and it will give you the performance from that intersection. So, in fairness, from most operators in the world, if you want to take an intersection departure, you have to cross-check the distance from the chart anyway. So you've got the charts built in, and now we're going to talk about this a little bit. You might say, well, I don't have a Navigraph subscription. You don't need one. This is pulling fully from the default chart in 2024, I should say, because this is available to everybody, these Lido charts. You don't need a subscription. So Lido is fully in there. So you can just open up the chart, everyone can go, oh, that's the intersection, I want to go Sierra 6, 1694, type it in, boom, you've got your take-up performance.
Yeah, so just to cover, on the take-up performance page, we don't have it drop down to the intersections for data, but you can get it from the chart. If you're a Navigraph user, you can have Navigraph charts. If you're a non-Navigraph user, you can use the Lido charts only if you're in 2024. If you're in 2020, you will only have charts if you have Navigraph.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And like I say, we've made this look like a Lido style interface, which I really like. You can bookmark, and you can also select and search different airports. You've got the AOIs. We're going to leave this chart open because this is the most relevant one for us at the moment, like that. And we have a night mode as well, zooming in and out. It's a nice system that works well. And as we were saying before, this is where you can then say, oh, I want this on the center when I'm taxiing out. So you can actually then, if you were doing a crew brief, now you'd be like, okay, we're parked over here, we're going to be taxiing up here, then we're going to go right, and then we're going to take this intersection here. Yeah, that makes sense. And then swap back to the FMS. I did see one question that I want to double check with Pablo, right? They were saying there's no 3-second delay when starting the APU. Is that correct?
Yes. So the APU on the 350 works differently because the electronic control box for the APU is consistently powered up. In the 330, 320, when you first press, if you look at the APU SD page, let's say when it's off, we can look at it actually when we're in flight, you would see amber X's. The whole APU is completely dead, 330, 320 until you power it up with the master. On 350, it's continuously powered the whole time. And it also has got auto start functions depending on the type of failure that you have, losses of engines and buses, and so on. So here, yep, you can just click them away and fire it up. It will start very quickly.
Makes sense. Because of, like you say, it's a different sort of, what's the right way to say it? It's got a different use case, right? It needs to have that auto start function, and also why not? If you don't need the 3 seconds, you don't need the 3 seconds. So what I've just done there is I don't know if you saw it, I was starting up the, and I want to ask you this question again as well, Pablo. There is ANF and ONAS. I'll say what I think it is and just tell me if I'm wrong. So ONAS is the onboard airport navigation system, and the ANF is the airfield navigation function. So basically, like, the ONAS is the system, the ANF is the thing. Or did I get that reversed?
Well, for me, actually, our manuals only talk about ANF, not OANs. So I was under the impression there was mainly other aircraft like the A380. I know it's called OANs. So I don't know, just different
could be that.
knowledge.
Yeah.
But for us, it's purely just ANF, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think for the people confused, I think on 380 it's called the OANs, on 350 it's the ANF, and that's why we reference the ANF. But if you're familiar to it on the A380, it's very similar.
Yeah, exactly. It's the similar sort of style system, but I've just loaded it up now. So remember what they were saying earlier, where I'm like, I want to go on the, oh wait, I can't do that. I have to go onto the ND. So now to get the cursor across, and also I like to minimize it so you have it open. You can see that you can move around, you can zoom out, and we've actually got these dynamic runway tags that move with you as you scroll along. It's really cool. The other thing that you can do as well is if you zoom in, let's say we want to make sure that we don't take a certain taxiway, like maybe this one's too small. You can say, okay, let's add a cross. So I don't want to go there. And you can say like, okay, fine, but I do want to taxi to this one here. So I can say I want to add a flag. So now you can see we have flags and crosses to, to basically dictate. And in Toulouse, maybe that's not so helpful, but if you go to an airport with limited runways, so actually I think there is a certain chart here for Cat F. Yeah, so this would be bigger than us, I believe. Actually, I'll ask Pablo, what category is the 350 in terms of like size?
Category Eco.
Okay, Eco, yeah. So this would make sense. So this is slightly bigger, but you can see there's limitations on certain areas. So you could then mark them off as what you don't want and what you do want, you don't want to do, and things like that. Now, I saw a question in the chat: how much FPS with the map on? Now, what we've chosen to do, and I agree with it, is effectively with the map on, like running right now, nothing. Almost, I shouldn't say nothing because it's never nothing, but it's almost nothing. Like I'm still getting
As low
132 FPS. It's as low as it can be,
be.
right? As low as is practical. Because what we've done is we make it render everything when the map is loading. Now, when the map is loading, you are going to see stutters. It will go. The sim will slow down as it's loading for maybe, and I should clarify, depends on the size of the airport. So if it's a huge airport like Amsterdam or like JFK, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. If it's somewhere smaller, it would just a second or two. And then because it's already sort of done all the loading, there is no sort of performance degradation after that. That's just a choice that we've made. And like you say, when it's loading, like remember earlier in the stream I was telling you I was getting 120 something FPS. I'm currently getting 132. So with everything turned on and the whole route loaded in, hasn't really made a difference. So you know, it's just something to be aware of. And I'm going to leave this in what mode am I going to leave this in? Yeah, plan mode. But I want to recenter it on the aircraft. So center on aircraft. And this knob is quite different than you might have seen in a 320, 330. So you can see how it has the different markers, but when you're in the zoom setting, it acts as a sort of 3 or 4 level zoom like that. But there's no extra
that's
marker.
right. It starts from 5 miles and it goes down. So that's why you don't see a change in the light, because you are well within the 710 range.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, exactly. And bringing up this here you can see where we are, and you could load up the other airports as well, view them, or you can load any airport that's in the database. Quite hilariously, when we were in the full motion sim, loads of airports didn't have a database because we've actually sort of had to make a, you know, this aircraft has got to obviously be global because it's a flight sim aircraft, but most operators, am I right in saying that, Pablo, it's not a global ANF database always? It's
That's
like
correct.
yeah.
It has to be decided by the operator which
Mhm.
airports they have. So for us, of course, it's got all the major airports that we operate to and our main alternates, but sometimes when we're flying on a long-haul flight and we just check the ANF just to see a random small airport that can still be used as an alternate, doesn't have ANF data.
Yeah, precisely. You know, so it's something that you've got to sort of, you know, make a judgment on. So now what I'm going to do is, we talked about this. So this is something I'm just going to show. It's not quite finished yet, but we're just working on it. And I will disconnect the GPU first. This is as far as we got before. You can access GSX, as we talked about the integration, from this menu. So we could say, prepare for pushback and departure. So now it will start to prepare itself for pushback and departure. You can ask for push, all this sort of stuff through the menu. So you don't need to go into the menu bar at the top. But I am going to continue with using the menu bar. And we've got proper GSX profiles, all this sort of stuff. And we're working on that as well. But it's really cool because you're not going to have to use the menu. You can do everything from there, and you can have it open. And remember, because of the flexibility of the plane, you can then put it on here. So you can, you know, use the GSX menu from there, or you can use it from here. Depends how you want to do it. So now I'm going to turn that off. GSX is just doing its thing. That's going to take a little bit of time when it's fully ready for pushback. Right. So. What if you don't have GSX? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, great minds think alike. Take it away.
If you don't have GSX, yeah, I think you saw exactly the same question.
Yeah.
So let me go on the ground utility tab.
But I
So
think it's coming. No, I think it's coming. I think we spoke about it with Dan. Maybe it's in there already. I'm not sure. But there will be, obviously, there'll be the Chops GPU, and there'll be. I don't think it's in here yet, but it will be for release. There will be. You can push back the plane from this as well.
Yeah. No, exactly. You'll be able to do everything that you can do in the GSX menu in that menu there, which is nice. You know. And I saw someone saying, "Am I using DLSS?" I am not. I'm at 2K resolution, just Ranger. So now I'm going to use the GSX menu just to continue it. So it's still you know, doing its little thing. As we talk about on the ground here, we have a lot of different things that we can open up. So we looked at them on the walk around. There are even more hatches and things that open up, like the avionics bay, going from inside to outside of the avionics bay on the floor. we've got the chocks, we've got the GPU, the ASU, the air start cart. They're all custom modeled from ourselves, right? So they won't interfere with the GSX, but you'll actually see them open the pipes up. It will feed it in. You can do a air condition, air start unit start, all this sort of stuff. So it's really cool. And you can hear the P8 going again. Let me just see if GSX is ready. So I want to continue. I'm a bit of a GSX noob, is the only way I want to say this. So I want to put nose to the left, tail to the right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Before you go to
Well,
transponder.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. See, this is why
Okay.
he knows. He knows.
So
you guys-
here, this is different, guys. I think I can just show. So on the transponder, you got two ways of accessing it. You got the RMP if you look a bit further back. There's the RMP. You got the button that says squawk, so you can press squawk. And here you can set up the code and ident, but you cannot change the mode. So you have to come in here, and you got a few ways of doing it, but the best one is to go back to the MFD and press default settings, and that will activate everything. Confirm, and then TCAS click above. So the TCAS is already looking above because it will always default to norm. So we always do this.
Okay. I didn't actually know that. Yeah, because I've actually been doing that, Pablo, where I was like, why is it on normal? But yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, like you said, it's built in here, which you can access, by the way, like these hard push buttons here, like the checklist menu. We've not been doing the checklist because we've been a bit cheeky, but of course you have all the checklists are built into the aircraft. They're built in here as well, not on the A400M where it's built in up here. It's actually an easier system, and it's also monitored. So you can just click through. Yeah, the doors are closed. Parking brake is on. The beacon, you can see, not on. Actually, genuinely did actually do that on purpose. So then you can see the order complete the checklist.
Yeah, I just wanna pick up some things from chat while you get ready. There's a lot of content here, guys. There's a lot of things that we've done in this plane. We're not going to be covering everything today. That's what the second session will be for. So if it's not covered today, don't think we're not ignoring you or we're not covering it. We're noting everything down to build a proper agenda for next week's stream. So just be patient with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now we're going to start the engine number 1 using the APU. So you move it on. We can see that we've got 19.9 quarts of oil. Now we're going to keep an eye on the oil, and we're going to start engine number 1. So engine number 1. So now we have the attention getter boxes. These are now actually on the new brand new 320s, and I imagine it's going to cross all the fleet. So what it does is it shows that, hey, this is the engine that's starting. You can see our PSI is rising, and now look at the oil. The oil's getting gulped into the engine, as they call it. So let me just put the parking brake on. So, okay, I'll do that through the menu in a second. So you can now see that the oil is getting sucked in, so we're losing a little bit of that. And then as it goes down, it's going to go into the tank, and then when we shut the engine down, it will come back out, minus the fuel that the oil that we burn. It's around 0.5 quarts per hour, which is quite a lot, to be honest. And I'm just going to get rid of the GSX. So we've now got a successful start because we've got the avail. Now notice you didn't hear like a really loud clack, same as the 330. That's because it has a no brake power transfer. Is that correct? Maybe you could explain that a little bit, Pablo.
Yeah, so exactly. It's called the NBPT. So the NBPT means that there's a seamless transition of power. You got the right engine to start.
Yeah, I'm just going to do a cross-bleed start, but I'm just being a bit cheeky.
Okay. So yeah, you got the NBPT, and the NBPT prevents the what we used to call the bass clap that you can still hear on 320s. And then there's nothing. So it's completely silent when you turn the APU gen on or off and the engines come online.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what I did there was a bit cheeky. I did the flow before the engine started, and I wanted to show you that the redundancy of these sort of systems. So if I open up the hydraulic system, so we've got one engine running, but you can see that both systems are being powered. So that's why all the flaps and slats came out absolutely no problem at all. That it went up to the green system, which is 5,000 psi. This is slightly less because it's kind of being fed from the other side, but from this side here, from the engine. So 2 engine driven pumps per engine, it makes sense. Now what we're going to do is a cross bleed engine start. Now in most other planes, Same as the 330 in fairness, but the 320 definitely, it's a bit of a palaver. It's like, ooh, you really have to think about it, get the checklist out, do things beforehand. I'm going to show you how complicated a cross-speed engine start is in the 350. Engine mode selector, ignition start engine 2. There you go, I've done it.
Can we got time for the engine start to hear the sound?
That's not quite working quite right with it connected with the walk around view. I can no, let's try.
Oh, I mean, sounds a work in progress, guys. Let's see if you
Yeah.
can hear it.
It'll light off in a second. There it goes. And I'll do one thing. I'm just going to bring the N1 up a little bit, okay? Just to give people a preview.
Yeah.
There you go. That's all they're getting for now.
Good little tease.
Okay. Do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard it first.
Right. So now we've got a successful engine start. So we just move that back, and we don't even need to do anything because that's it. Now auto brakes. A little bit of talk about here.
As well?
Sorry, say again.
Your EFIs. You can also set that
Oh
up
yes,
for
yes,
you.
yes, yes. Let's do that properly. So.
Like also, one thing that we can show now over here, the pointers, where you just click VOR1. Before, if you guys noticed, there was a little indication. Now it shows ADF. You can actually toggle them like that, and if you click it once more, it will just show you the pointer.
Let me just go into the actual mode. We can see it. Yeah. See, it's nice. It's a much better system than having the knobs where you're kind of moving it all over the place. You know, you can have VOR1, VOR2, or you can have the ADF over here, or this, or nothing. And you can actually have a few things selected at the same time.
Yes, which you could not do constraints on airports. For example, you can do constraint class, beacons, VOR, waypoints on airport. The 350 one, 320, 330 you cannot. But that is
exactly. It's nice. It gives much more flexibility, right? So with the auto brakes, it's actually just one button, right, in the 350. So you just press it. Now it knows we're on the ground. It knows we're going to take off. So it's gone for RTO. Fine. In the air, we'll talk about it more because it's more complicated. But for now, you just press the button. That's it. Brake fans are up there, and that's it. Now we need to do the takeoff config test. It works just the same way. Takeoff config test, normal. It's fine. And we have the VSD now showing the information. You can see this is the constraint, so it's going to be above the constraint. Interesting. And it's automatically set the trim. Now, if the trim doesn't set correctly, Pablo, how do you actually tell the aircraft to trim? There's a certain way, right?
just the speed exactly.
Yeah.
The ground policy: disarm them and arm them again.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like it's quite clever. Like if this hasn't set what you want, so what you want is the magenta, if I'm right in saying it, and then this is what it's setting, and this is the optimal range, and this is like the absolute range. So yeah. So basically, it should do it automatically. If it doesn't, disarm, arm the spoilers, and you'll get it. Right. So I think, if you agree, if we go for the nose light to taxi, everything else is there, we can actually start going. So let me put this back into plan mode. Let me zoom in. Parking brake comes to off, and then we can start taxiing. Now, is it okay if you, while I'm taxiing, Pablo, this thrust percent is a very different system? Maybe you could give like a bit of an explanation on that.
Yeah, so there's quite a big change because up to now 320, 330 aircraft, they're always either EPR if you had a Rolls-Royce engine or N1. Now Airbus has replaced that. It's a Rolls-Royce engine, of course it's got the 3 spools and so on, but the main way of assessing the thrust is by actual thrust percentage. So instead of having, let's call it percentages, 100 and something percent N1 is the maximum number you can get. Now your thrust 100.0% means you're getting full thrust from that engine, whatever that is. No need to know if that is 98% N1 under 103% N1, which is possible on 330 and other aircraft. So here it's purely thrust. And if you look at it now, it's showing you, because you've set up a flex, what your flex thrust will be in percentage. Had you selected toga for your takeoff, it would show you a relevant percentage. And here's another interesting thing as well. If you're doing a toga takeoff, you would not necessarily see 100%. You might see 99, 98, and that's because you're getting your engine's leads. If you need full thrust, which is the case, very heavy departure and so on, and you need to having your packs off, that is what would give you 100.0%.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Very cool stuff.
it's a really cool system. Makes sense. It's logical. You know, it really is. You know, it's one of those things that when you use it for a little bit, you kind of go like, oh, that's weird, and then after you use it for a little bit, you go like, no, it does actually make sense. Basically.
I just want to pick up some things from chat. So HDF taxi. We want to get HDF taxi done for release, but it's not going to be possible. So it's going to become part of the ULR update 53 later this year. The plane is releasing in February, as you may have heard from Discord. It's not Jan, it's not part of February. And we want to make sure that we stop at a certain point and make sure that what we've got implemented works 100% correctly. So that's that one. And for those who might have noticed that during engine start, there are many structural vibrations throughout the aircraft. That includes engine wobble, flaps, elevators, lots of different vibrations and things on the exterior model to showcase more properly next week. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's so like what I think is crazy is probably people thinking that we're like going through everything here. I'm just going over the surface.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally just like I could have spent 4 hours on the ground, no joke. We could have talked about so much stuff. But we just want to, let's get going because eventually, kind of gets to that point. So we're going to take the full length. Like, I just want to point out how fantastic the ANF is for situational awareness. Okay, here's the chart. Here we are. This is the runway we're going for. There's that little flag, remember, that we put on earlier? Oh, that's the one we want to go for. Brilliant. That's where we want to go. That's it, And just very quickly, the taxiing physics, right? So in 2024, we're using, of course, the new fuselage systems going across the aircraft. We're using the new taxi physics, and we're also using a lot of we're using CFD across the board in 2020 and 2024. And this gives a more natural feeling for sort of taxiing. You can skid the nose wheel, and actually, if you do skid the nose wheel, it actually skids on the tarmac on the ground. That is a built-in feature with 24, but it's cool to see. And you have to taxi it with a little bit of care and attention, but it's still quite direct. So see if I change direction, but you see now I've turned it too quick and I go the other way, it still takes a while. There's a bit of momentum, a bit of mass, a bit of inertia behind there for when it needs to turn. I'm going to try and do my best impression of lining up, which is probably not going to be very good. Don't think I went far enough. Pablo can judge, it's fine.
Let's just go slow.
Oh, a bit more power. No, I've done the classic that I always do. Not enough. You need a bit of power when you come into these tight turns with a wide body. Otherwise, you're gonna come to a complete screech and stop. Okay, that wasn't bad, to be honest. Right. So coming to a stop, I'm just gonna brief a little bit about what we're gonna do. So we've set this to zoom off. You've got to turn the ANF off. You don't use that. Am I right in saying you don't use that for takeoff, Pablo? Right?
Correct. Yes, must not be used for takeoff.
Must not use, which makes sense because you want to see where you're going. I'm going to turn the landing light on. I'm going to turn the strobe light to on. I'm going to leave the packs on because that's what we calculated for. Can do both. And we're ready to go.
Taxi for takeoff.
Nose light to taxi. Thank you. For help if I actually scroll it the right way. Nose light to taxi. This is all fine.
Weather radar on.
Yeah, weather radar on. So that would be done.
By the EFIS. So this is different as well. So this is on the EFIS contained over there. So the way that it works now is your surveillance for the aircraft has already activated the radar, but it's not radiating yet. All you have to do is press the weather pattern, and then that activates the radar. So no need to look down like 330, 320. That's all you need.
It's just natural habits. It's great. That's really good. Oh yeah, and we'll put the terrain radar on as well. And someone I see say control check. I did a ghost control check. You actually did do one when we were taxiing. And this is a 350 style runway. So is everybody ready, right? I'm going to be quiet, which I know is unusual. I'm going to be quiet, and we're going to, boost the sounds up a little bit until we get the autopilot in the thrust production. Yeah, then I'm going to, while Matt's doing that, I'm just going to get the SID chart up, which I would have, something along those lines. And I'm going to go now. Okay, so the parking brake is off. We're ready to go.
away camera.
And flex 57 SRS runway, Wolfers Blue. Do knots.
V1.
Rotate. Nav. Autopilot 1. Push for nav. Positive climb, gear up. Climb. And now I'm going to come to thrust climb. Thrust, derate, climb, climb.
And guys, that wasn't even toga.
That wasn't even toga. That was derated.
I've flown this
Heavily.
plane. I've flown this plane. As a sim, I've been through, seen many aircraft in the sim world. When you have this, when you're flying this plane yourself with your own headset, you turn your sim up, and you're on toga, it is another experience. I just find it crazy, and I just want to add something. The gear-based sounds, they really are that loud. I mean, Pablo, you can also speak to some of the sounds of what you hear, the engine sounds, and taxi sounds, and gear-based sounds. I mean, for me as a passenger, I've flown through many times. It's really, really, really realistic.
Yes, and for example, another sound that we're putting a lot of work to get right is the gear up sound, which for many might have noticed that it's very loud, and it is extremely loud. The nose gear is directly underneath us, so as soon as you retract it, that generates a lot of vibration, a lot of loud sound over there, to the point that sometimes you can even, if the radios are a little bit on the soft side, you might not hear that radio call, but that's why that volume is very loud on purpose. That's the way it is.
Yeah, and it's one of those super cool sort of like super cool things, like to actually be able to capture. And I want to show as well now, just while we're in this little section when we're a bit lower, if I zoom out, look at this terrain radar. It is a work of art. Like, it's a totally different style, and also you can zoom all the way to 640. So there you go. Look, you've got the Alps on the right, and you've got Spain over there, Bilbao. This is the coast of France, and then obviously you've got the UK here as well with the channel, and you can see it on the VSD. So look, you see brown, blue, so that's the channel, and brown again, that's the UK. So you can actually see where you're going to go, and that's your lateral path drawn vertically cut into the VSD. But I'm going to zoom back in now again. Right. One thing I'm going to go through, because I know everybody's going to get this wrong. I got it wrong. Everyone will get it wrong. It is push for standard. Push for standard. Not pull, push. Now, everyone is going to say, and it's the same on the 380 as well, by the way, so all next generation aircraft, it's push for standard. I was initially like, well, that's ridiculous. Why would they change it? And it took me one explanation from the instructor in the sim. He said, well, what do you do with every other mode in the Airbus? Push for managed. I was like, yeah, that's trash. So it makes sense. You're pushing the baro to say you have control. Standard. Makes sense.
And actually, when we're talking about the baro, you just spin the wheel for the baro to just show.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys look at the top right, that is a preset function. It's only displayed for 3 seconds or so, so you can now preset any QNH that you want, and it will stay there until you pull whenever. So if you pull it now, it will show whatever it was, 134. So that's your preset function, which is very useful.
Yeah, it's really nice. That's really, really nice.
Big brake, these are your spoilers and taxi lights.
Ah, yes, thank you. There we go.
Where would we be without Pablo?
I know, he's there. He's there. This is why you need 2 people in the flight deck,
It's an easy aircraft.
Yeah, it is. And like, what's pretty interesting though is I hope people can see that it is quite amazing that this is under a common type rating or any kind of commonality with other Airbuses. Because is it an Airbus? Absolutely. You can see that it's got the same sort of FMAs. same sort of pitch indications. There's a lot of similarities, but there is some stuff that's it's just totally different. I mean, it really is like a totally different aircraft, and that's what's cool. It's cool to have something that's so totally different in the sim, and be able to capture that. You know, I just saw someone saying about the flight directors moving. That's because of the weather. We were using the CFD flight model. You can see it's not moving anymore. Low level turbulence is in there, so yeah, that's what that is. We have a dynamic flight model that will move quite a bit with weather, more so than other aircraft, to give that proper dynamic feeling.
I mean, my personal favorite, I don't think I'm on VATSIM today, but it's the new ADS-B TCAS that's been implemented.
Oh yeah, that is really, really cool.
It's really cool. You can see the traffic, you can see the call signs. You know, we're going to maybe show that off next week.
I'll just get some weather as well from here, sort of delve into these features. So this is actually going via Hoppies, via going to Hoppies as a request and coming back. So these are the ADSs that are coming from the different airports, and this is how it would come through. You can of course change it and things like this and have it selected. For the traffic, if you had it on, it's in the... I've actually just blanked on it. Where is it? Do you know where it is, Ube?
Which one, sorry?
The traffic selector. I know we can't view it, but it's on the surveillance traffic. Yeah, got it. Yeah. So if, for example, you were online on VATSIM where you had traffic around, you would be able to see the aircraft symbols as a little... What's the best way to describe it, Pablo? Like a little plane, right?
It's like a little plane. We don't have it in our aircraft actually, but from what I've seen, it's a little plane.
Yeah, it's like a little plane, and you can go on here on traffic, and you can actually sort of interrogate the traffic on there, and you can see this is just picking up some default aircraft that are on the ground, and then you can actually view their call sign, you can view their, you know, what they're climbing to, all this sort of stuff. And it's really cool, especially when you're online. You're like you can see who's ahead of you, where they're going. That's the point of the feature in real life. And I think that leads, unless there's any questions you want to go over now, by the way, before I lead into another monologue.
No, I think we've covered a lot of them. I think service-based failures and wear and tear. Yep, you know, we've got that in the maintenance section. That'll be there. And you know, similar to how it was on the A300, we can cover that off maybe next week.
I could go through some of the EFB stuff I was going to go through now as well, but not fully that. Yeah,
no, I think just showing some people. I think auto step climbs and total descent. We're going to show you all that now. In terms of cabins, we're going to show you cabins next week. We'll go through a more, cabins, liveries, configs, that kind of thing next week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's a really cool experience in the cabin, so that's something to look forward to. So let's just start going through some of the more of the options that we have on here. So flight op status, I should have done this if I was being a good pilot, is this effectively imports from SimBrief. Now, remember what we said in the real aircraft, this is a laptop in a box, right? So it's a laptop in a box, so you have to tell it, hey, I'm going from Toulouse to JFK, this is my call sign. It doesn't, there is a way to synchronize it, but it doesn't fully know, so that's why you're telling it here. And then you check the type, you can check the registration and all this sort of stuff. The load sheet, we've already talked about. Terminal charts, as said, you can have Navigraph, you can have Lido, you've got all the different charts here, you can pin them, it's very nice. Then you've got the en route map, which is sort of the similar route map that we had before, where you can just sort of follow along and have a look. You can also change it to IFR day, so you can actually have a nice view of sort of the surrounding areas in terms of airspace when you're en route. Ops library, that's to come at the moment. That'll be sort of manual location and things like that. Takeoff performance we talked about. Landing performance we're going to talk about next stream, but it's going to be as detailed as the takeoff performance, if not more, which is pretty exciting. Ground, this is where you're going to toggle the avionics bay, forward cargo bay, bulk door. So this is where you can open all those doors up, and the emergency slides, similar to the A300 Premium, you will be able to follow the slides and arm and disarm the doors, things like that. We're going to aiming for that, but that's one thing that may change in the long run. But it's something that's cool to see. The lights, this is where you're going to toggle the avionics bay on and off, and this is where you can actually have the lights in terms of like downstairs where we were, and that was before. The stairs, this is our own stairs, so this is not GSX, and you have different stairs that are actually spawned in with ground back-end objects, so they're not actually like a thing attached to the plane. It's pretty cool. Chocks, ASU, ACU, GPU, we talked about. What else is there? The maintenance. Do we talk about it now or do we talk about it next stream? Probably the next one, I guess. Or this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we should do maintenance and cabins next week.
Maintenance and cabins
And the
next week. We're just holding back on you. Come back for more. Situations is an interesting one. So situations, I want to introduce this now. This is something that we want to try and sort of pioneer, I would say, is yes, you have failures, right? Now failures are like these here, the list of some of the failures. This is a situation that the aircraft can be in. So you can have a depressurization, you can have a bird strike. I'm not going to give the game away completely, but let's say you have a bird strike. Does your engine just turn off? Well, yeah, but what else happens to it? Does it get damaged? Can you see the damage? These are more art and systems and things all coming together into a single sort of failure that you can do and practice or have fun with. So yeah, that's where these are, and we hint we're not going all the way to JFK, so let's manifest that a little bit.
I was waiting for my in-flight meal.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, so I think one thing, it's always important that people like failures, they want to put failures on, but what do those failures actually have an impact on the day-to-day life, and how can we, we're in a sim, we can make this more fun, we can add situations. So I think this was something really cool. You can see that there, we want to build this out for the future. This isn't something that is just going to stop. Right now they're just enabled, disabled, you can arm them as you wish. We can build in suggestions in the community on how we can really improve this, and we want to make this part of an Inibuilds airliner product that you can get, of which there'll be many airliners this year. And how can we extend this? These aren't just systems related situations. They're, some of them will have an art element to it as well. As you can see, the ones coming soon, there's lots of things going on there. The way that you'll interact with it will change. So this is really something that is like a version 1 that will ship with the plane. But we really want to build this out and make this cool and interactive to what people suggest. So don't base it off what you see on day 1. Work with us to make this better and however wacky you want it. A block toilet, a block toilet can be as rudimentary as that, or something more catastrophic and severe.
Exactly.
And if I can also add some over there a bit as well, this is the core of actually what elevates a product, because what we as pilots, and Cameron, you can also attest to this, when we go in the simulator, you never really you never practice just a normal situation as just a single failure. It's usually a scenario in which various things interact with each other, and then you have to make a decision. And this is what we want to bring people in, realizing, you're not just failing one thing, you have this problem. Something might fail, might not fail, might degrade over time, might get worse. You have to make a decision.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I want to just say as well, like Ube mentioned, this is the beginning of what we want to expand on this. We're building this platform. The platform is the 350, right? As you can see on the outside, you've got all the hatches, you've got all the harnesses, you've got the toilet service. They're all there as tools to be. What can we do with them? I mean, it's endless, right? We've put the platform and tools in place to be able to let's do some really cool stuff. And as Pablo was just saying, single failures, like a DC bus failure, they happen, but they're not that serious, really. They're kind of like, okay, that's happened. Okay, let's deal with that, and that's it. The time where you earn your money as a captain is when you're in with a situation, a complex situation that you need to deal with, and there may be effects on the aircraft, and there can be honed there,
I think someone linked it into MELs and things on startup. That is also part of the next phase. So within the ULR, we worked. One of the big components we did. We've got some great engineers that we worked with. Not pilots, but those who live and breathe this aircraft day in and day out. And they've suggested we're working with them on what sort of MEL situations. So if you turn up to an aircraft for a morning, what do you have to sort of deal with? Extending beyond the pilot, but from an engineering perspective, and some of those MELs and startup procedures, and an option to load up the aircraft in a way that you might not expect to, and set of restrictions. That is linked to all of this in the next phase of this product.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like I just want to show here, there will probably be more of these even that are on release, because we're just working through them. There is a lot of failures that we've put in here. Prim failures. These are ATUs, emergency failures. These are things that you can just trigger on, trigger off if you want to, and see how the systems are react because they're built in a way to react correctly to these sort of failures. And yeah, we've just given you an option to sort of trigger them from here. And as said, that's what we're building upon over time to give that sort of airliner experience as well. I did see one thing I wanted to bring up. People were saying climb rate for 350.
Yes.
It is interesting because I don't disagree with what they're saying. It climbs very, very, very slowly. It's something that people think of when they come to a 340. But for example, remember we said we were in auto derate. Let's take it out of auto derate. Let's put it into climb. So see how now we've got a bigger commanded thrust, but now it's going to increase. The N1 is going up, and you'll see the climb rate start to increase. So at 224 tons, which is, well, it's not super heavy. 280 tons is maximum takeoff weight. Now without the derate, we're climbing at closer to 2,000 feet per minute, which is pretty good, I think. You know, flight level 25260. But with that auto derate on, as Pablo said, it acts as if it's like super heavy.
Yes, and let me also add that the 350 also, towards the higher levels, it does not climb that great. It also climbs really fast speed-wise. It will aim to intercept Mach 8.5 on the speed. So this, of course, leads to quite a shallow path. And in real life, it's very often the case that we have to intervene with selected speed to try to improve the rate of climb. Especially when we have nowadays so many climb restrictions from the
We can approach Thai Air Asia 133, information echo, requesting IFR range to Chiang Mai.
To be leveled by the FR boundary or manually intervene.
Thai Asia 133 Phuket approach สวัสดีครับ You're clear to Chiang Mai via the EGV1 Bravo departure, runway 27.
You guys can hear
Initial climb will be 5,000 feet. Expect flight level 320, squawk 7303. Information Echo is current QNH 1006.
A question that I've seen a lot is the cabin. The cabin is done. You know, the exterior is done. The reason why we're not showing that off yet is we're just wrapping up LODs, LODs. As you know, in 2024, LODs are really important. So once that all signed off, next week we will be able to showcase you the cabin properly, and everything involved in that. And if we could show you everything today, there'll be nothing left for next week.
Chiang Mai via the EGIB-1 Bravo departure, departure runway 27, initial climb is 5,000 and expect flight level 320. Squawk 7303, Q is 1006 and current information is Echo for Thai Air Asia 133.
Thai Asia 133 read back correct ครับ report ready for push and start.
Yeah, it's like some of it is still attached. We'll make sure we highlight it all properly on the next stream.
We'll call for push, Thai Air 133.
Some of the lights are physically, when they're physically not there, they won't emit, etc., etc. So, but it looks fantastic, I will say, of course. Take my word for it, but we'll show it off on the next one. One thing I wanted to show off though as well in terms of art and things like this is look how smooth this animation is. Oh, that's satisfying. To show like these sun blinds here, so putting the sun blind off the back has a little catch like this, and it's just nice. It's that Airbus sort of yellow colour, and you can stow it back as well. Stow it again, and it will go back in smoothly. What was I going to say about the animations? Yeah, look, animations across the board. We've tried to really put a lot more little details into them, little smoothness like that. And you might notice on the 350 that the window is huge. Now the window is huge for a few reasons. It doesn't open at all. Now, it's a bit of a strange one, Pablo. Does that ever cause any problems on the aircraft that you can't open the window?
What do you mean? Cause any problems?
Just like when you're trying to talk to ground crew and stuff, I always like to be able to shout at them through the window.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, the A330 was so easy. I could just open and talk to the guy. So yeah,
Exactly.
no, you cannot do that unless you open the hatch on the roof.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. It's more like a 787 style. Of course, you got to say like, well, what's the reason? Well, legally speaking, the windows are there for evacuation reason. I don't need a sliding window. So that's why in the roof, I think it's up here. Yeah, up here there's the handle to exit up through the roof. So that's the way to evacuate in case of an emergency. If I'm right in saying that, Pablo.
Station calling Phuket approach. Pass your message.
Just to show you some of these, the quality of the.
Would you like us to squawk mode Charlie on the ground?
So have a look at the.
That would be preferable for us.
Select this.
Well, it is.
I've never actually seen like how the cockpit seat actually animates, but there you can really see like how the whole thing sort of goes. I'm just struggling with my click spots. Sorry about that. This is my bad. There we go. And it's just like you can see the shafts go across. It's not just a floating chair that moves. It's actually mechanically animated, which is really, really nice. Loads of details all over, like little things here, which is for USB charging. But look, this is just a USB plug, and it has that much detail on it. Again, so this is where you're going to store all of the flight crew bags. They must be in there because in case of a rejected takeoff or something in flight happening, they can kind of go all over the place. So, and these are, am I right saying, Pablo, these are the gear pins, landing gear pins? Yeah,
Correct.
landing gear pins. Yeah.
And
Which
you
is
can
cool.
see over there also another interesting feature. They are actually 5 pins. You can see the 4 main
yeah.
ones because there's 2 remaining.
Asia 133, stand 5, ready for push.
The small one is blocked by the actual latch, but that is correct.
Taisha 133, push and start is approved. Face east, QNH 1006.
Nice, nice. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Face east and Q1006 for Thai Air 133.
Show off some more of the sort of features that we have built in for quality of life. What we can do now though is just go through some of these pages. So you can see in the FMS we've got digital latest receive, so I can clear that from here. Cruise is going to show us, you know, what we're cruising at, distance, times, things like this. And descent, it works if you've used the A400M. It's fairly similar. This is where we'll put the weather in, the go around, and we can see our maximum altitudes. This is where we would put in on the flight plan page. Vertical revision is where you would do the steps. Am I right in saying that, Pablo? If you would do it up here, step altitudes, and you'd put them in there.
Correct.
Yeah, and you would list them, like you pick the waypoint, you put the flight level, you click insert, and then that's how it's done.
Yes, you build up the list. You don't have
Yeah.
to, like, for example, go waypoint like do on a 330.
Men nào là khám
Make
định.
a whole list of waypoints of your flight plans really quick and insert them all.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually quite a nice system because you just basically drop through the drop down and off you go with it. As we talked about earlier with the ND, so if I can move on to the ND here, you can actually see that there are interactive elements on the ND. So if I, for example, find an airport that's close by, so let's say one that I know, LFBH, and I click data, it then brings up here, and you can see it's got runway 27 and runway 09er, and they're both 2,201 meters. So you can actually just see the data that's from the ND on there. Same with the other waypoints as well. You're actually able to, which we're going to highlight in the next stream, but you can actually go, you can click on the waypoints and go direct to them from here, and you can actually also click on the aircraft and create waypoints. So you can basically say, if there's, say, weather ahead, you could make a waypoint here, make a waypoint there, and then connect it back up. Is that often what that's used for, that sort of feature on the ND?
To be fair, actually, I've never really used it.
Yeah, I was wondering when it would be used.
Some people use it, but personally, I just run everything through the MFD in real life. We've done it as a nice feature to have, really.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that I thought that as well, that it kind of looks nice, but you kind of go like, yeah, but when's it going to be used? It's cool. I like using it, but it's actually quite useful, I would say, on VATSIM when you're giving yourself, like, if you need to, you're not going to get vectors, you give yourself a point on base, create it, and then attach it up. So it's quite nice for that. Let's start to go through some of these system pages because there are so many to go through.
Cameron.
Yes.
Cameron, just before we do that, I think some people might have missed the weather radar in action. Do you mind putting back on the weather radar so they can see it?
Yes. Let me turn off the terrain. So for the weather radar, you would select it on here. So this is where the weather radar would come on, and it would actually be shown. Where is it else shown, Pablo? It's in the surveillance as well. So this is where you would select it on and off. There is no weather really. It's just lower level clouds without precipitation. So
yeah, but I think there was some on departure. So anyway, for Sean, I know you were keen. It is there and it does work.
It does work. It's the default. To go over it as well, it's the default Asobo weather radar with our own custom colouring, like we've done on the 330, like every aircraft in the sim uses at the moment. That's how it works. It's the best data that we've got, and of course, if anything else comes available, we'd like to use it. But I prefer to have it than not have it. You know, always.
Yep. And that will be on 2020 and 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see now we're only at 600 feet per minute, so this is what normally happens, and that's, remember, at full beans climb power. We're not even derated, and as Pablo said, right. So now look, we're at 98.1% power of the engine. So it can't really give much more unless you turn the bleeds off and kind of add some power on, you know. And I can turn the terrain radar back on because I prefer.
Here's your 133 ready for taxi.
Thai Asia 133 taxi Papa, hotel holding point, hotel runway 27.
Now, engine page, you can see you've got the fuel flow.
Papa Hotel holding point, hotel for runway 27, Thai Asia 133.
Standard, you can see where everything is, including the other hatches that we'd have on the exterior. Wheel, now this is the one that kind of becomes a little bit more interesting and kind of next generation aircraft specific. Do you see how you've got wheel and a little more in grey? So, do you mind explaining to people what that does, Pablo, for the more?
Yes, so what they've done is Airbus has reduced the amount of information presented unless it is required, as in the case of a failure, or unless you press the more button. So instead of having all of this information visible the whole time, there's things that can be hidden unless you press the more button. For example, the brake accumulators. Above it shows the type of braking applicable. Right now, they're both on normal, so no need to show you that. But if they were to fail, then that would appear alternate emergency and so on. Same thing with the brake temperatures and pressures. If it's not important at this stage of flight to see it, it's hidden. You can trigger it.
I think it's a really good system. It makes things less cluttered. And not that many pages have it. I think the fuel doesn't have it. Because the fuel system is relatively, I would say, at least compared to the 330, and you would know, Pablo, relatively simple.
Yes, less piping, no need to transfer fuel back and forth, less things that can fail, just 3 tanks. And the
Yeah,
center of the wings,
exactly. It's basically there's a removal of the trim tank in the rear, as you're saying. Like the aircraft is done with. It's done in a sort of different way. It's sort of a philosophy they've ditched because, to be honest, for what it saved, it added quite a lot in weight, complexity, all this sort of stuff, and something that they've done on the A300, 310, 330, and then they just went. I think the 380's also got it. I would need to check that. But the 350, they went, no, that's it. We're going to go with a simplified system, which makes a lot of sense. You've got wing tanks, you've got center tanks. They're feeding now, and that's it. And you can transfer fuel. You don't actually have to turn pumps off anymore for gravity feeding and all this lot. You just have a transfer pump to do it, to transfer it across, and you've got the 2 cross feeds and things like this. So there's we'll go through that more on another stream, but there's a lot of stuff in there. Now I do want to talk about the elect system for a little bit because it is so complicated. Would you agree, Pablo, that it's the most complicated electrical system you've seen on an aircraft?
Yes, it's got a lot of different buses and a lot of generators. That's what I think. Well, look now, you can see we've got 2 engines, but we've got 4 generators. So it is very well done and it's very clever. A lot of redundancy built in all the time, and each engine giving you 2 generators, and in flight a single gen could run everything.
Yeah, exactly. You need a lot of redundancy because, as we said, the 350 is basically a flying server room. So if you lose power, it's going to be bad. You're going to have a bad day. So you can see these generators have got a lot of like space and load in them. Now, we have simulated over 80 buses. Now you're like, well, what do you mean? There's only like, a handful of buses here. Now, on every aircraft ever made, the view that the pilot gets is I like to call it the Fisher-Price view, the child-friendly view of what's actually going on with the aircraft. Because you don't need to know that there's 7 buses on the AC-1A bus. It's not relevant. It's not important. So you combine it into one. But we've actually simulated all of these buses. And that's why the failures that you've seen in there can trigger in here, and different things can happen, and it's a very complex.
All stations information. Foxtrot is now current QNH 1007.
And I'll just move across to the DC page for a little bit. You can see it's fairly similar to the 330s, so it's kind of like going up. The AC one is sort of the more interesting page because you've got the separation of the buses now, the 115 and the 230. And little things that connect them together. These can fail, these buses can fail, the generators can fail, the rat can come down, all this sort of stuff, and you can see this is where it's all controlled from. As Pablo said, you look up here and you think, oh, I'm in a 340. You go, no, I'm not in a 340. I've actually got 2 engines, but you've got the generators for each one, a bus tie, and this is a different philosophy for separating the system apart. But we're not going to go over too much of that now. Let's continue on. Hydraulic. We already showed. I would personally say the hydraulic system is is
Thai
nice.
Asia 133 winds 300 degrees at 4 knots, QNH 1007, runway 27 cleared for takeoff.
The pipes can be a bit smaller for the weight.
Over 27 for takeoff for 133.
Yeah, that's right. And also one huge difference right now, we can only see 2 hydraulic systems compared to the usual 3 of all other Airbuses.
Yeah, that's a huge difference, right? And that's one of those things where you go like, well, hang on, they've removed redundancy. They've gone backwards. No, they've gone forwards. You know, because we've got both of these systems. And what's the other system that we have? I'll open up the flight control page.
Yes. So what they've done now, which is extremely clever, instead of having 3 big reservoirs and piping and so on, we've got 2 main systems, and then we have certain backups, which are called EHAs and EBHAs. So basically, what we have is certain surfaces. So it will be one for the elevator, the rudder, and aileron on each side, and also one spoiler on each wing. They've got their own mini reservoir, and they can keep this amount of fluid that gets continuously gets replenished. So if you were to lose all your main hydraulics, now you still have these units on their own, these actuators that have got their own mini reservoir, and you'll just keep on flying. And that's how they achieve the 3rd level of redundancy.
It's really, 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 really cool. It's a really, really cool system that you can have no hydraulics on and the autopilot stays in, which is just okay. I know no hydraulics is in like pumps from the engine, but you still have those backup reservoirs. It's a very, very cool system. APU bleed, bleed is fairly similar. You know, it's to what you've seen before. Same with the conditioning is a little bit different because you've got the zones, and this again goes back down to where you can do the more option, and you can see the breakdown, and you can adjust the temperatures, turning the packs off, hot air valves, all this sort of stuff will have an effect on the aircraft. And the
Thai Asia 133 radar contact 1,400 feet, continue climb to flight level correction. Continue climb to 11,000 feet, direct EGAVI.
Correct. You can keep higher pressure and a lower cabin altitude.
I maintain 11,000 and direct EGAVI for Thai Asia 133.
You can also, when you want to manually adjust these systems, you can take control up here. And when you're taking full manual control, you basically are dialing the cabin up, or you're dialing the cabin vertical speed down. You're not actually taking control. Let me get a better view here. You're not taking control of the outflow valves as you were in the past, because that was always something that was a bit horribly complicated to try and do. But that all works. Put it back into auto mode. Right, so now what I'm going to do, because we're kind of getting a bit en route, is show off one of these quality of life features that we've got, which is the up to 4 times speed. So I'm going to put that on automatic now. So now what's going to happen is you can see on the top here, it shows simulation rate 4 times, and the aircraft is now going 4x simulation rate. Well, obviously, you can use 2x if you want, and once it drops into a lower frame rate, it will automatically drop down to a 2 or a 4, depending on sort of your performance, because it does depend on your system's performance of how much time acceleration that you can do, because obviously now the systems are running at 4 times speed, and the fuel flow and everything will work correctly, as in we're now going 4 times speed, so 4 times the amount of fuel is going to come out of the engine, so when we arrive it should work. And we've also got pause at top of descent and auto step climbs, so auto step climbs work, which is really nice.
And I think just to add, this is a A350 unique feature. Airliners from A350 are going to include this. Airliners before 350 are not. The Microsoft collaboration will not. So these features that you see of auto step climbs, time compression, they are new Inibuilds airliner features that are exclusive to Inibuilds and will be present on airliners going forward. They won't be backported. Another thing I just wanted to add, which I think people in polar ops might notice, that I think we've had to limit it to 2 times due to something going on in the North Pole. I don't know if anyone here has got more information on that.
I don't fully remember that, but I think it's beyond a certain latitude that there were. It basically because the high speed and the flight plan basically spinning around, effectively, then it slows down.
Exactly. So you can expect 4 times in most parts of the world, apart from up there. I think we're reducing that to 2 times.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's just an automatic system.
Thai Asia 133 leaving airspace shortly. Radar services terminated. Monitor Unicom 122.8. Have a safe flight to Chiang Mai. สวัสดีครับ
4 FPS, 86 FPS, which is
ก็122.8ขอบคุณมากครับสวัสดีครับ
So, you can see the clocks are turning here. There's a lot to sort of see in terms of what's extra shown.
All stations forget
Flight
approach is
time,
now
you know,
closing
everyone-
mandatory
I will
decom
ask this as a question to the
122.8.
chat, right? Don't put the, it's kind of an answer it in your head thing. Why do you start the chrono? I think a lot of people think that they start the chrono. They're like, oh, I need to know how long my flight is. That's not why you start the chrono. That's irrelevant. You start the chrono for the amount of time that you can run the engines on Toga if you get an engine failure at takeoff. So I always just don't really bother, and it's actually very in the sim, I should say, because unless you're going to do a failure, then you know it's going to happen. But what's really nice with the 350 here, the elapsed timer for the flight is automatic. You notice I didn't start a timer, I didn't do anything. We've been airborne for 42 minutes, so it's really, really nice. So that's, you don't have to worry.